examining promising practices in Inuit communities and around the world to learn from and build on these successes. Earlier this year, for example, 21 Nunavut women graduated from the first ever Masters of Leadership in Education program to be offered in our homeland. Like your program, the Nunavut program involved an essential collaboration between the government of Nunavut, the University of Prince Edward Island, and the university many of you know well, St. Francis Xavier. The thinking behind this groundbreaking program was this: investment in education build future leaders. We have learned that such investments can help us rebuild our education systems and recover from the traumatic era of education policy characterized by residential schools, an era that shook our belief in ourselves. Our work today in setting up new governments and reviving our language and cultural heritage is about transforming ourselves, reclaiming our identity, and developing the skills necessary to be leaders in our families, our communities, our regions, and in our country. My own history in leadership has been strongly guided by my early years in Nunavik, which is more commonly known as Northern Quebec. As a young girl, my family and I lived in Kangirsorjuak on the Quebec's Angava coast. We lived a traditional lifestyle, speaking only in Inuktitut, traveling only by dog team, and eating mainly food that we hunted and gathered ourselves. My father, who was originally from Manitoba, adopted our culture and learned to speak several dialects of Inuktitut. And he was 18 when he went into the Arctic, and he died a year ago at 91 and never left the Arctic. We lived in tents and sometimes log cabins. If my dad had the energy and the will to build us a log cabin, we would live in a small log cabin. And with the wood stove blaring hot, my grandmother Ginny would teach us the stories of our past. She taught us that family bonds were at the core of our culture. Those early days grounded me in my identity as an Inuk. When I turned 6, my family moved to Kuujjuaq so that my brothers and sisters and I could begin federal day school. Until then, we had learned simply by observing the actions of our parents and elders. And I remember how strange it seemed to suddenly find myself at school where the rules were entirely different and new, and the teaching methods were different than anything we had ever experienced. And it was all in English, and we didn't speak a word of English. We were punished if we spoke to our friends in Inuktitut, the only language we knew. There is a word in our language, in the Inuit language. It is Iliranaktualuk. It means essentially that the white man has power over us. It was the term elders used when referring to white men, and it was what my grandmother used to say to us to get to listen, so we could listen to her. She would say something like, "Halunak iliranaktualuk hailangayok," which literally meant, the white man will come and get you if you do not behave. So when the going gets tough, I think of this expression and it gives me the determination to carry on. Determination is an essential quality for me and for many Aboriginal leaders like me, working in a largely non-Aboriginal world, and a very diverse world it is. This diversity can be summed up in a joke that is often told throughout the Arctic. An elder asked what the definition of a vegetarian is, and he replied, "A bad hunter." One of the great quotes of on leadership comes from Henry Kissinger. He said, "The ultimate task of a leader is to take his or her society to where it has never been. But this requires a willingness to travel on the difficult road between a nation's experience and its destiny. She is bound to be alone at least part of the way until experience catches up with the possibilities." This is especially true, I think, for Aboriginal communities. That difficult road between a community's experience and its destiny is a road nurtured by leadership. Your goal is no less than to help our young women draw the maps that they need to navigate that road. So let me take a moment to acknowledge the leadership of the Coady International Institute, the Imperial Oil Foundation, and the ExxonMobil Women's Economic Opportunities Initiative, which are responsible for this unprecedented partnership. But I would be remiss if I did not also recognize the criticisms being leveled at big oil companies because of the horrendous events taking place in the Gulf of Mexico as we meet here this evening. My views on offshore drilling in the Arctic are a matter of public record. We must do everything in our power to prevent such devastation from occurring in the Arctic. Such a spill must never be allowed to occur in my homeland. Yet, I also recognize the good that can occur when corporations use their power to improve social conditions throughout the world. This evening is proof of that. So thank you for the work that you have done. And thank you for listening to me tonight. Nekok may marelo.